Hey everybody, Joe from Joe of All Trades, bringing you another episode of Cinema Sleepers. Today, we're covering what I believe is a very underrated and pretty much forgotten World War II picture, and his 1980s The Big Red One, starring Lee Marvin and Mark Hamill, and directed by Samuel Fuller. Like I said, this has pretty much been forgotten. It's hard to access online. You do have to pay to rent it right now, and I haven't really seen it free streaming anytime. I've actually purchased a copy of the DVD, of the reconstruction version. I'm going to put a link in the description box below to purchase it on Amazon, and I think that that's the better version. It contains an additional 40 minutes of footage and scenes that I think really tie the story together that the theatrical version does not. Let's jump into the facts. So this picture was distributed by United Artists. It was produced by Gene Corman. That's the brother of Roger Corman. Roger Corman is a legendary producer, kind of lower budget films, but he's given many up and coming directors their first work in Hollywood. That would include Francis Ford Coppola, Martin Scorsese, Ron Howard, Jonathan Demme, Peter Bogdanovich, Joe Dante, and James Cameron. Quite a list. The picture was written and directed by Samuel Fuller. Fuller is an American film director, obviously screenwriter, novelist, journalist, and actor. The film is semi-autobiographical. Samuel Fuller served in the Big Red One during World War II, where he saw heavy action in Africa, Sicily, Normandy, Belgium, and Czechoslovakia. And you will see the unit in this picture go through those areas. He was present at the liberation of Falkenau concentration camp in 1945. You will also see scenes as it relates to that, which are very disturbing, but also compelling. Film is starring Lee Marvin, Mark Hamill, Robert Carradine, Bobby DiCiccio, and Kelly Ward. Lee Marvin, known for The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, The Dirty Dozen, Paint Your Wagon, and Gorky Park. Mark Hamill, obviously Luke Skywalker, and also as the voice of the Joker in the Batman animated series and movies. Robert Carradine, you know him from Revenge of the Nerds, and Kelly Ward was Putsy in Grease. So, notable cast, not all that star-powered, but it is a good cast of good actors, and they do the film justice. The budget was $4 million. The box office got $7.2 million. So this was kind of on borderline B movie. It was a big budget B movie. And I think since its release and over time, it's just kind of been forgotten about. That's why I'm covering it on Cinema Sleepers, because I do think it should be in the conversation of some of the best World War II movies. I do think it's one of the best of the genre, and it just doesn't get mentioned a whole lot these days. Synopsis: Lee Marvin leads a group of soldiers who adapt to hardships of war as they see conflict in North Africa, Sicily, take part in the D-Day landings, and liberate a Nazi concentration camp. The critical reception in his review upon initial release of the theatrical version, we'll get into that in a second, Roger Ebert gave it 3 out of 4 stars and wrote, "Well, this is an expensive epic. Samuel Fuller hasn't fallen to the temptations of the epic form. He doesn't give us a lot of phony meaning, as if to justify the scope of the production. There aren't a lot of deep, significant speeches. In the ways that count, The Big Red One is still a B movie, hard-boiled, filled with action, held together by male camaraderie, directed with a lean economy of action. It's one of the most expensive B movie pictures ever made, and I think that helps the subject. A war movies are about war, but B war movies are about soldiers." And I couldn't agree more with that analysis of the movie, is that this picture is really about the soldiers and what they go through together as a team and individually. It's not about the bigger concept of right and wrong and, war, and especially World War II. In November 2004, Ebert, on revisiting the film, gave the film 4 out of 4 stars and added it to his list of great movies. My notes. The movie was shot by an older director in 1980. It plays like a war movie more so from like the 1960s versus war films during the new Hollywood era in the years building up to 1980. For example, Apocalypse Now, Deer Hunter, etc. It has a much more 1960s or Western type tone. However, the subject matter does delve into serious subjects that aren't present in movies like The Longest Day or something like that. That's what's unique about this film. It addresses deep, dark issues of war, murder versus killing, the enemy, Holocaust, innocent casualties. But this old timey tone can add some levity or even be somewhat humorous in the midst of these issues. It's kind of strange, but I'm guessing Samuel Fuller had to keep some levity in combat, so it's probably more realistic than one might think. Uh, the movie was shot in Israel, and most of it was shot in Israel, and you can tell very, you know, white, sandy, stony type background. Yeah, it's obviously not, Normandy Beach in France. Lee Marvin has a few surprising tender moments that provide another form of levity through the film. And it's not like a humor levity. It's just that, oh, like this kind of grizzled combat veteran who's seen it all and lived through it also has a heart, and in a masculine way, even expresses unspoken love. So I think that that's a really touching aspect of the film. I like it a lot. Um, the D-Day scene is very intense. There is, if you've seen Saving Private Ryan, there is a section of the D-Day scene where they have to use Bangalores, which is essentially a long pipe bomb that blows up, um, uh, you know, the big pieces of metal, barbed wire, all that stuff that the Nazis put in place on the beach, so to impede the soldiers from making it up into actual country and getting off the beachhead. Um, the they're utilized there's like an explanation of what a Bangalore is, and it's a very intense scene in getting to work because that's the only thing that's going to get the soldiers off the beach and out of harm's way. And I have to say that there had to be a little bit of influence on Steven Spielberg in using those in his D-Day scene in Saving Private Ryan. Fuller has many cut shots to symbolic images that does a lot of storytelling. So type of tone or mood or anything like that. Like it helps tell the story, and you can obviously see it when it happens. There's a scene in the film that I believe Quentin Tarantino paid homage to or got influence from, as he used a similar situation in Inglorious Bastards. Specifically in Inglorious Bastards, where Michael Fassbender is he's posing as a German officer or a Nazi officer, and they're in this underground bar, and he is ordering drinks, and then instead of asking for three glasses like the Germans are supposed to, or how the Germans signal three, he used three. And even I use three like this because my hand doesn't move very well like that. So, anyways, so he gets caught just by doing this instead of this. And there's a scene in this movie where someone gets caught for a similar situation, and I have to say, or I have, like, there's no way that Quentin Tarantino didn't see The Big Red One. I mean, he's probably seen every movie. I'm sure he loves it. And then also he kind of paid homage to it by doing something like that. There's a gripping scene at the end of the film involving Mark Hamill when a concentration camp is liberated. I don't discount Mark Hamill's work as the voice of the Joker in the animated Batman. However, this is the best acting Mark Hamill has done outside of the original Star Wars trilogy. It's just it's heartbreaking. and it's just, compelling scene to watch. Cheers to you on that one, Mark Hamill. Uh, my nitpicks: this was a big budget B movie, but it still has limited production value, which shows. The uniforms look a little off. There are a few extras, like in the background, tight shots. The D-Day scene looks like a small reenactment because you can tell there are not a lot of other people on the beach, which is obviously, not realistic. There are several versions of the film, and the the theatrical release was 2 hours. It's fine. I've seen it. Actually, in preparation of this film, I watched the theatrical release and then also the reconstruction version, which I'll put a link for this in the description box below. It has an additional 45 minutes of footage added back in by Fuller, and I do think that it really assists in telling the story. There's a lot of kind of there's dots that you have to connect yourself in the 2 hour theatrical version, whereas the reconstruction version helps you a lot more. And it's better. I mean, and to be honest, this movie moves pretty fast. So yeah, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes, but it doesn't feel like it, even for a movie of the time. There's probably doesn't exist anymore. It's the director's cut that Fuller put together, and it runs like 4 hours long. So I don't think that's ever going to be seen by anybody. Some other fun facts: Lee Marvin served in the Marines in the Pacific and saw combat. He was wounded and earned a Purple Heart. The role written to portray Fuller is Robert Carradine's Private Zab. During the film, as in real life, Private Zab discovers that a book that he had written that he thought was unpublished did end up being published. As in real life, Fuller's mother actually had the book published without his knowledge, and he didn't know it had been published until he went overseas and he's in combat, and another soldier is reading his book, and he didn't figure it out until then. So that's pretty interesting. Fuller received the Silver Star, Bronze Star, and Purple Heart during his service. So this guy saw some action. So, I mean, that certainly assists in his storytelling and putting this movie forward. He was present at the liberation of the Falkenau concentration camp. And I believe, that inspired, what happens in the movie with those scenes. Fuller's screenplay was written up from a wartime diary he kept, which is just really impressive. And I always say that, like, people just don't keep diaries like they used to, just day to day. Both of my grandfathers served in World War II, and my father's father kept a diary, very detailed diary of day-to-day things, and that it's just something that people don't do anymore. That is, just tells you, this was America's greatest generation, and we should be grateful the fact that we have all of these histories that came from personal sources. Let me see here. Fuller also wrote the regimental history following the war in 1946. Warner Brothers was interested in developing this film in the 1950s, but it never came to fruition. Instead, Fuller directed Merrill's Marauders in the early 1960s as basically a dry run for his own film, but it obviously took much longer than expected to make it. At the time, the 60s, John Wayne was thought to star, but Fuller didn't like Wayne for the sergeant. And as history tells us, Lee Marvin being an actual combat veteran versus John Wayne, who wasn't, is a much better portrayal. And obviously, by the time the movie was made, John Wayne had since passed away. But I would never. This movie would not be what it is if it's just John Wayne phoning it in like most of his performances. So Lee Marvin is this movie isn't what it is without Lee Marvin. This film, it's not currently streaming on anything for free. If you want to watch the 2 hour theatrical version, you have to pay for it on Prime, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, YouTube. And I would say, I don't really see it streaming for free on anything. So if you want to see it, you're probably going to have to pay for it. But I paid $8 for the reconstruction DVD, and I think it's absolutely worth it. I think you're going to want to watch this more than once. And if you still have a DVD player, I think it's worth it to buy the DVD. I mean, I don't. I have a PlayStation 5. I think that that's probably the last, most common disc player anybody has these days is a video game system. So I would say if you can, check the movie out. Let me know how you feel about it in the comment section below. If there's other movies that you want to recommend for Cinema Sleepers, go ahead, leave that comment in the comment section below. If you like this set of videos, Cinema Sleepers, please like, comment, share, subscribe. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and if you want to help the channel out, please head on over to Patreon. And happy watching, and cheers.